In this video, we're going to be discussing the secret struggle of accepting and forgiving your spouse's past history. And what does that mean to you?
That means that you have a terrible past history and mine is pure as the driven snow. No. To me, it means, everyone has what they call the proverbial skeletons in the closet. And that simply means that people have things in their life that maybe they wish they hadn't done or things that had happened that were not things that they choose to talk about or to remember and reminisce. And I think that in relationships, because when we come together, we want to build this life together, we have to also realize that part of that life includes the experiences which molded and shaped who you are today. So an example of that, one of the things that always used to get to me, and I wish it was today, but at the same time, I'm totally acceptance of it. I wish that I would have married you when I was 20 years old. I wish that it wouldn't be your kids or my kids or stepkids. I wish it would just be all of our blood, both of our blood and DNA running through their bodies. That's not the case, and that's not going to minimize the love that I have for all of our kids together. But that would have been cool, I'm too old now to have a baby, so I've accepted that. Now there was a time that was difficult for me to accept that your kids had another father, had a different father, and I wasn't that father. Especially in the beginning, when in the beginning you're married, you love each other, you think this is amazing. And I still do, but there's all this oxytocin and all this emotion. So to have that, and then also, you went through a period of time in your teens where things didn't go right, and you had other boyfriends, and I had kind of wished, that you had never had another boyfriend anywhere, that I was the only man that you ever had met in your life, your father, your uncles, you never even knew what a man looked like until you saw me and you're like, that's a man right there, So I struggled with that in the beginning. I struggled with the fact that you had close ministry relationships. None of these relationships, they were not anything that was salacious or whatever it is. I think that the jealousy, I was never jealous before. I was never jealous. And now I'm in love with you, we get married, and now I'm jealous of
everything.
Yeah, it was weird, man. And I had a problem. I hadn't even had a problem with being jealous. I was like, the Bible says don't be jealous. And we talked about the whole jealousy thing. And then you had even said something like, well, if you weren't jealous, I'd worry about you. I'm like, what? And I'm thinking, but I'm not supposed to be jealous. I am man. I will not be jealous. I am man. So I tried to man it up. I tried to force it up. But the more I tried to force it, the more it would eat at me, And so when it comes to past history, and I even think that sometimes in conflict, when we're having discussions about things of our past and it ends up going into an argument, it's easy for the enemy to bring up, well, who does she think she is? She, so and so and so. So who does she think she is? The accuser of the brethren will always do that. So when I think about, the past, forgiving the past, not that there's anything to forgive in your past for me, it's just to understand that what is your past is in your past. We're building our life now and in the future. There is nothing you can do about the past. Anyone who dwells on the past will never succeed going forward. And I don't care if you were in jail, you could have been in jail for 5 years and now it's, you've been out, you've lived a good life, you've helped other people. Well, what matters now is that you've lived a good life, you've helped other people, you're a good citizen, you take care of your children. But I was in jail for, selling weed, 5 years ago. Are you selling weed now? But in our society, we'll have a tendency of pigeonholing people. I just saw something over the weekend. There was a guy that was just let out of jail. I'm not sure when that video came out. He was just let out of jail. He'd been in jail for 45 years for a crime he did not commit. 45 years. And now he's in his 60s, and the county has agreed to pay him $1.5 million, which I think is totally inappropriate. They should pay him a whole lot more. So now this man's going to go and he's going to try to get a job, and he's going to try to make a life out of himself and his whole past. But when he was being interviewed, this man had turned his life around in prison. What he did happened when he was like 18. He's now in his, 60, whatever, he's in his 60s. He's a different man. And he was totally forgiving. Mm-hmm. He was totally grateful. If I had a business to hire, I'd hire that man.
Mm-hmm. But some people can still see you in that same light.
Yes.
So I know when we met, one of the first things I wanted to know was your whole story. I wanted the good, bad, and the ugly, because I had to make a decision. Do I want to be with you or don't I? I don't want to find out things later. I wanted the good, bad, and the ugly. And although some things were hard to hear, because I could still think, well, if he did it then, he'll do it now, or whatever. You know what I'm saying? We can think that about a person. If they did it then, that's who they are now. But, you have to pray about it too, and give people a chance to be who they are today. And who you were in your past isn't who you are today.
Right.
Who you were when I met you is not who you are today.
Yeah.
Who you were last year is not who you are today.
Right. Want to keep growing.
Because we keep moving forward.
That's
and
right.
we keep progressing, and we keep growing and learning. And as long as a person is keeping learning and growing, then they're moving forward. And so I know with me, like I said, it was hard to hear some of the things, but it's good to share things with each other, because if you get married and someone finds out something later, then you look like you're a liar on top of everything.
Right.
So it's better, before you even get too emotional with each other and too connected with each other, and to the point you're in a relationship, it's better just lay it on the table.
Right.
Lay it on the table. This is who I am. This is where I've come from. This is my past. Make a decision. Do you love me? Do you want to be with me or not? Rather than deal with that after you've been, emotionally connected.
That way you know whether you can handle it. I saw
Yes.
a thing on one of the Christian TV interview networks, and they were interviewing a couple, and the lady had been a former adult film star. And now her and her husband have a ministry together. And I thought about that, and I thought, wow, this dude is really secure. But from the interview and the way they said it, I don't know, but I don't know what it took to get there. Because sometimes people don't talk about that part.
You see today, but you don't see the journey of getting there.
Yeah, I don't know what it took every
There's
time
struggles.
they became intimate. Did he get these thoughts, and did she get flashbacks? So I would guess that there have been some things. I heard an interview just a week or so ago of I think I told you about it, a woman who loved her husband, loved him, and he ended up getting brain cancer. And over a period of 11 years, they fought this thing, and he ends up dying. And she thought she would never get married again. He was the love of her life. And she ends up, some years later, marrying this other guy. And when she married the other guy, he had to accept the fact that she loved her husband,
and
who
she
died.
still loved him.
Still loves him, honors him. On his birthday, they still honor him. On their her anniversaries that they still honor him. She ended up having breast cancer, and right before she went in, her new husband said to her, he said, myself and whatever the former husband's name was, say his name is Roger, myself and Roger, we're going to be looking over you. And I'm not sure what their religion was, but he said, Roger and I will be taking care of you because you're our girl. And I thought about that and said, wow, I don't know if I could do that. But in the situation, you never know what you can.
Right.
But he was able to deal. So every situation is not a bad situation. Sometimes it's just a different situation. And,
but you have to know whether you can handle that, or whether it's going to be a struggle in your relationship.
Yeah.
And you determine that before you get married. Now, if you're married and you're still struggling with those things, I think it's important to really forgive the other person, for their past, you really have nothing to forgive because you weren't
Right.
part of
Yeah,
it.
that's
There's
right.
nothing to forgive because you weren't there. And who they were then is a different person again than where they are when they're with you.
Yeah.
Because, that changes everything as well. So,
I think in that situation, the Bible talks about renewing the mind. So,
right.
so I'll give you an example of that. And look, we're talking real stuff. And the culture that we live in, when I grew up and I was in school back in the 70s or 60s, whatever it was.
50s?
If 50s. I got 50s for you. $50. If a guy had been with a lot of girls, he was considered a stud. If a girl had been with a lot of guys, she was considered loose, And so, but why is that the double standard? The double standard. So let's say now a person is years later, they could have been with a lot of women in their life. He's cool with it. But if his wife has been with a lot of guys, he just can't handle that. What does that mean? That means that you're fake because
It's a double standard.
It's a double standard. And what you have received is a cultural thing that for some reason is making a man more superior in that area than a woman. The Bible says be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Well, how do you renew your mind? By what you put in your mind. Now, for me, I love to read, or if you might need audiobooks, I love podcasts about relationships. But I think the biggest thing to me that overcomes that stuff is the connectivity that you have with your spouse. The more connected we are,
the more those things don't even matter.
Right, because I truly feel like you're mine and
Right.
not everyone else's, or and that's one of the things even with us, me, as a singer and stuff, and being traveling a lot and people knew me in certain circles. It could seem like I belong to the world, or you may be married to someone who is very established in their profession. It seems like they belong to the world. The caution that I would give is to make sure that you keep your bond and connection strong. If you keep your bond and connection strong, all those other little attacks, you'll build up armor. You'll build up armor so when the darts come, they bounce off. The darts will come. The darts will come. But you have to build up the thick skin, and that comes through connecting. How do we connect? People connect different ways. Some people connect by touching. Some people connect different ways. But anyway,
Right.
Anyway, that's how I think when you deal with getting over the past and dealing with forgiving a past, if there's something to forgive or whatever it is, you build a stronger connection.
Just to remember, the past is the past. You weren't part of it. It's in the past. You've come together. You've got this marriage, this relationship, and it's all about moving forward and keep letting the past stay behind in the past where it belongs, and not dragging things. You weren't even there, so stop dragging it into your present and your future, and build your relationship together and keep moving forward.
That is correct. Keep moving forward. On to the next secret struggle.